Every Tuesday, Eric would take a trip to his parents' house. They had both passed away 3 years ago in a deadly car crash. He hadn't had the heart to sell the place. But with his wife expecting and pressing him to sell, he was definitely thinking on getting the process going soon. As he walked up to the house that evening, he heard a weird buzzing sound. He paused to listen to it. It sounded vaguely like an ambulance siren, and it was coming from the house. The hell? He walked up to the front door. He unlocked the door, turned the knob, and the buzzing sound suddenly stopped. Then he heard a noise that sounded like someone moving around inside the house. "Who's there?" He walked through the house, methodically turning on all the lights, and there was nobody there. Of course there's no one here. I'm being completely ridiculous. He approached the fridge, and things were lightened up when he found a yuzu citrus soda. I guess I must have left it here last time I visited. The fridge was actually pretty well stocked. The soda was delicious, fizzy with a lemon flavor. He took care of a few things that needed to be done around the house, like watering some plants. Then he locked up and left. Back at home, his wife Heather was asleep, and after changing, he slipped into bed. He was working tomorrow at the hospital. Being a nurse has its ups and downs. Working in the ER strangely feels routine over time, despite it being completely unpredictable. Sometimes he worked nights, so his sleep routine could get messy. That night he had a strange dream. He was at his parents' house, in the kitchen. The fridge was full of meats. The meat was not in Tupperware. It was just sitting in the fridge in its own bloody juices. Interspersed with the meats were large wild mushrooms with greenish-yellow caps. He started feeling sick seeing this weird scene. It was night in the dream. There was suddenly a noise in the house, a thud sound, like a heavy object hitting the tile floor. Right after he heard the sound, the sick feeling went away. Suddenly, he was in another part of the house. It was dark, a hallway. There was a small shelf in the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Eric saw a single book on the shelf, The Bonfire of the Vanities, by Tom Wolfe. He lifted the book off the shelf, and it started to disintegrate in his hands. It was fake. It wasn't a real book. It was a paper prop, filled with mealy gray paper stuffing. He closed the book. He then felt a breath on the back of his neck. He spun around to see a small, ghostly apparition of something. Somehow it felt like it was a child. Through his terror, he also felt familiarity, like he knew who it was. Suddenly he could feel his life slipping away. Ah! He woke up in a sweat. It felt like a 3-minute dream, but it was morning. The sun was out. "Honey, can you grab me some flowers from Diamond Flowers at your lunch?" his wife asked. "Yeah, of course, honey. Any specific request?" "Baby's breath and proteas." "That's the little ones." "Yeah, those are the baby's breath. The proteas are the weird ones that kind of look like fuzzy artichokes. I want something really artsy for when we see KJ and Lana." It was a pleasant week, not too crazy. Patient with a gunshot wound. But anything could happen at the hospital. It was just the result of an accident. The patient was going to be fine. Tuesday rolled around, and Eric found himself approaching his parents' house again. No buzzing noise this time. He approached the front door. As he got closer, he noticed a small mark on the bottom of the door. It was a sort of a fleck that had been gouged out. It was very small. It would have been easy to miss. Just like a little piece of chipped paint. He bent down, and he noticed it looked a little scratched. Like a finger scratched it. What's this all about? This wasn't here before. He opened the door. The night was really quiet. A cold chill ran down his spine when he noticed what appeared to be an identical mark on the inside of the door. But it wasn't really the mark alone that gave him a chill. There were more scratches around the mark. These were longer scratches, like fingernails had made them, scraping against the bottom of the door. It was probably an animal, right? Somehow an animal had gotten inside. I need to check if all the windows are closed, he thought. I mean, there's no other explanation, really. He was momentarily reminded of his parents' cat. I missed that cat. He would have kept thinking about Leo if he wasn't so freaked out. Instead, he searched the house. He turned on all the lights. All the lights. There was nothing there. All the windows were closed. No other signs of any animals. There was also no one there. No signs of any people in the house. No animals, no people, no nothing. He saw the book from his dream on the shelf. He moved through the house very quick, walking to the book. He picked it up. It was just a normal book. The Bonfire of the Vanities by Tom Wolfe. What the hell is up with those scratches on the door? He opened the fridge, just a bunch of stuff. He opened the freezer and he found a couple steaks and some wild-picked mushrooms he had left there in the past. Silence. He did the things he needed to do at the house that week and left. At home, his wife was still up on her cell phone. "Welcome back, honey. Did you hear back about the job at the plant conservatory?" "Yeah, it was a no. But they said they would keep my resume on file, whatever that means. But Laura told me there was a job opening in the botanical gardens, and she said the director said he would be willing to wait." Whoa! That's great news. We need to celebrate this. That night he dreamt he was in his parents' home again. The house was very dark and quiet. There were extra parts of the house and extra rooms that weren't there in real life. Inside the rooms, sheets were covering the furniture. He wandered around this new part of the house. He had a sense of terror, like someone else was with him. It felt as if a strange, sinister, and chaotic energy was in the walls, as if the whole place was alive. He felt the same breathing on the back of his neck as before. Oh shit. He crumpled down to the ground, closed his eyes within the dream, and woke up in a sweat. He had a pounding headache. Heather had been sleeping deeply and soundly. He wondered why he was cursed with these nightmares. The previous night he dreamt of being in a disgusting public bathroom. Why can't my brain just cooperate? Maybe I need to meditate or take a vacation. Coffee in the morning, with toast and orange marmalade. A list was on the fridge. Dog park, call Lewis, clean car, cut grass, pads, get fish, etc. Work, then sleep. This week was crazy. So many weird patient cases. A poisoning due to cabinet medicines, an infected dog bite, an allergic reaction to a bee, a gnarly broken arm with a spiral fracture. These were all people, not their illnesses. People. But their illnesses were sometimes more memorable than the people. Not always. Sometimes. Lots of good interactions, but also lots of not so great ones. A long week. It was Tuesday again, and he was back at the house. As he walked up to the house, he noticed someone had fixed the scratch on the front of the door. It was painted over. The color of the paint was just slightly off. Maybe he'd have to ask the neighbors. As he got close to the door, the buzzing ambulance sound returned. He slowly opened the door. The sound stopped. Nothing. The inside of the door. The inside of the door had been painted too. What the hell's going on? He once again methodically went through the house to look for anything out of place. He turned on and off all the lights. Nobody there. And everything just looked the same. He went to the fridge and opened it. He instantly saw it. Something absolutely terrifying to him in his current state of mind. There was a fresh drop of blood, what looked to be blood, on the shelf of the fridge, the top shelf. Suddenly he felt that familiar hot breath. The breath from his dreams, on the back of his neck. He spun around to find nothing. It was completely quiet. Stillness. He took a deep breath. Wait, what's that? There was blood on the countertop. It was a handprint in blood. He pulled out his cell phone to take a picture. Then he heard a sound, a mumbled voice. It sounded like the groans of a woman, a little like his wife's voice, but garbled. It sounded like someone in pain, someone suffering, someone who wasn't well. Impulsively, he put away his cell phone and walked to the dark hallway where the sound was coming from. He moved quickly. In the front of the hallway, there was a spot of blood on the floor. Then he saw something. A figure at the end of the hallway. A man just standing there, the same height as himself. Somehow the man was a fuzzy image, as if he was out of focus. In a crazy moment of panic, he grabbed the book on the shelf and threw it at the man. The book hit the floor with a thud. There was no man. The man was gone. Just him. Then he felt the breath on the back of his neck again. And suddenly he felt really ill. So ill. Ugh. Ah, Jesus. He fell to the floor, landed on his face and broke his nose, leaving blood on the floor exactly where he'd seen a spot of blood earlier. He rubbed his face with his hand. Blood was all over his hand. He walked into the kitchen. Immediately he noticed there was no longer a handprint on the counter. He put his hand down where it had been. Exactly where the handprint had been. And it left an identical print to the one that had been there before. He washed off his hand and his face in the sink. He walked up to the fridge and opened it. No drop of blood in the fridge. He felt a hot feeling below his nose. He rubbed his nose with his fingers. Then he touched the shelf where the drop had been. He left a small drop of blood on the shelf. There was a weird sensation in his body, as if he was drifting off. He heard the buzzing sirens again, and he made a break for it. I have to get out of this house. He left, closing the door. He noticed that the door was now completely pristine. It no longer had the painted over spot. It was actually a completely different door. What the hell? I need to get myself together. 2 weeks later, he visited the house with Heather. It was daytime. It's time to sell this place, she said. You're right, honey. This place feels cursed. Cursed or not, let's get it sold, she replied. It was a really nice day, and the house looked very normal, both inside and out. Eric had cleaned it all up. His nose wasn't displaced, and the fracture was healing well. He realized he was a bit burnt out, and had taken a couple weeks off work. He was also meditating, and it had really done the trick. He was feeling better. Thank God you were okay, said his wife Heather. You know what? Let's celebrate everything. Deciding to sell, the new job, the baby, everything. 2 years later, a couple is dining at the house they bought. They're eating with another couple they invited over, that are close friends. One of the guests, named Jasmine, asked, So, what's the story with this place? I heard someone died here. The woman who was hosting, Elizabeth, replied, Yeah, no, it really happened. It was a man and a woman, married. The woman was pregnant. They were the owners at the time, and they ate a dinner with poisoned mushrooms. Her husband, Jeff, corrected her. You mean poisonous mushrooms, honey? Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, their bodies were found by the front door. Jesus, how disturbing, Elizabeth, said Jasmine. It's sad, said Elizabeth. It is sad, Jasmine replied, in complete sober agreement. The moral of this story is not to eat wild mushrooms, said Jasmine, looking at her husband in the eyes. I eat wild-picked mushrooms, said her husband Mateo. You just need to know you got the right ones. Well, I guess the moral is never eat poisonous mushrooms, said Jeff. Elizabeth looked at Jeff with a smile and said, Jeff and I aren't believers in ghosts, so it didn't really factor in buying this place. Later that evening, Elizabeth cornered her husband Jeff. Did you drink my yuzu soda? No, he said. Somebody did. I didn't, really. Huh. It was a festive feeling that Tuesday evening when Eric and Heather sat down at the table to enjoy a steak and mushroom dinner. They were finally going to sell the place. There was a big spider on the wall, and Eric got up to take care of it. Heather drank another sip of non-alcoholic sparkling cider, while Eric had some champagne. It was the middle of the night, and nobody could see them, but they were there. Eric was going to go back to work tomorrow, but he wanted to celebrate the decision to sell the house. Finally, they were going to sell this place, and everything was going to be great. They had a bright future together.